Welcome to what has been a very, very highly anticipated show for you all as we continue our series as our first episode of the college football postseason, the offseason, as you say, is officially upon us. It's a bit of a different feel, but we still have a lot to pretty much break down all night as we try and bring you the best content available on the internet. Everybody do us a favor, first of all, and first foremost. Y'all hit the like, share, and subscribe button down below. Y'all turn on the bell notifications so that you are notified every time we go live here on the Southern sports scene. Every live show is brought to you by our good friends over at Frost Buddy. Going over to frostbuddy.com. Use that promo code SSS15. Get yourself 15% off of your first purchase. That's code SSS15 to get 15% off of your first purchase. Also, thank you to our friends at Trike Nutrition for the best quality coffee on the market with 20 grams of protein, 1 gram of carb, 1 gram of sugar, 1 gram of fat. Get the best available coffee on the market when you use promo code in the link in the description below to get yourself started with all things Trike Nutrition coffee. All right, no time to waste. Let's get after it. by the way, call in line 843-350-2534, 843-350-2534. Guys, as the 2025 season begins, I want to go over a little bit of our top 25, and I want to talk about why I put certain teams where in my way too early ranking. So here they are. As I mentioned, after the national championship, Missouri, Arizona, Houston, Virginia Tech, Penn State, Iowa, Tennessee, USC, Alabama, Washington, Utah, LSU, Ole Miss, BYU, Michigan, A&M, Oklahoma, Miami, Texas Tech, Oregon, Notre Dame, Indiana, Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, all in my top 25. So I want to start it off with number 25, and let's talk about the Missouri Tigers. I want to try and knock out at least the top five, or the bottom five, I should say. Missouri, Arizona, Houston, Virginia Tech, and Penn State, and then maybe we'll hit Iowa. Maybe we'll save that for our next episode. But last year, guys, I thought that you made strides, and I thought that you had moments. If you are a fan of Missouri, I think that if you're realistic, you're looking back on this past season and you're thinking, what if? What if? I know it sucked that you lost a top 10 pick in Armand Membu. You lost a could have been first round pick in Luther Burden. Obviously, he wasn't really on the field as much, but still, you lost a lot of dudes. Nobody. Look, I'll be honest with you. I did not know what to expect from this past year from a team like Missouri that lost a lot. I said 7-5 preseason. I was semi-right, but not all the way right. But again, you lost a lot of dudes to the portal. You lose a guy like Williams Nwaneri, who's now at Nebraska. I thought that he was going to get some more playing time. Obviously, he had another season where he didn't play a whole lot. You lost Brady Cook, who's now with the New York Jets, Nate Noel and company as well. But I thought you did well in the portal, getting guys like Josiah Trotter, Ahmad Hardy, Jalen Catalon, Damon Wilson. But obviously, the portal was not kind to you, knowing that you lost Damon Wilson again, who's now at Miami. I think he'll make an immediate impact there, but that is a video for another day. to say the least. But I thought last year you were able to do some really good things. I thought you got a really good receiver in Donovan Aluk-Bode, who is going to be a very special wide receiver. And that was a hell of a catch for Missouri in last year's recruiting class, that you were able to flip a guy like that and get him out of IMG Academy out in Bradenton, was at Montini Catholic in Lombard, Illinois. The fact that you were able to get a kid like that and keep him and get him in Missouri and get him in that offense is very impressive. Ahmad Hardy returns. I know you're going to lose a guy like Kevin Coleman, who's now going to the NFL. Guys, I still like what you were able to do in the portal. I would think that Missouri could be higher come preseason. They could very likely sneak into the top 20. I really think that that could happen. I think that he has an opportunity to do something really special this next year. Aluk-Bode is going to be a very special player. You know, you talk about what he brings to the table, and you're going to get a guy that is as advertised. He is. Josiah Trotter, obviously, like we've mentioned, leader on the other side of the defense. Guys, he is a very, very dominant linebacker. And never mind, he is going to the NFL draft. I don't know how I missed this, but regardless, despite you losing a guy like that, I still think defensively you are going to be in a very good position. I thought Missouri has done surprisingly well in the transfer portal and through recruiting. I think that you are in a great position. I know it's not like what you had last year, but guys, I really like Johnny Jones. I think you can put him in a position where he's going to back up somebody, whether it be another transfer on the offensive line, let him learn. You get DeMarcus Johnson, who could play significantly, the number 2 overall player in JUCO. You're getting a lot of, in-state guys that you really need to fill in positions. That needs to be a massive priority. You have a top 25 overall transfer portal class. And guys, I'm really impressed with who you have been able to get. Bobby Washington from Miami is a downhill linebacker. I think he has the opportunity to be a very special player in the SEC. He hasn't gotten the playing time that he's been trying to get, but Missouri is going to get a guy that is going to be, he's not going to be Josiah Trotter. That is for sure. But I do believe he is a player when it is. You're on the phone with Lucas Hill. This is the Southern Sports calling. Oh, thank you, Chloe. Is that all you had to say? All right, I love you too, babe. Goodbye. That was my girlfriend. Thank you, Afton. Love you. God, oh. But Missouri is going to have a really, really solid defense this upcoming season. You return Corey Batoon, who's had to work with a lot. He's had a lot on his plate. Let's just be real with each other when we say this. He has. Has it been easy for him having to take over for a guy like Blake Baker and what he rebuilt in a couple years with Missouri? No. But Batoon is still a really good defensive coordinator with a really good mind, and he knows how to develop dudes, especially in the front seven. You've seen how Missouri has been the last 2 years in that area. They've done really well. They've done really well. So, Missouri, in my opinion, should still be considered a top 25 team. They're killing the portal. They really are. Compared to what they've done in years prior, they are hitting the portal with a vengeance. And they need to. They have a lot of holes that, quite frankly, are hard to fill. Let's talk about Malik Bryant, the edge. He's going to get after dudes coming off the edge. We've seen it before. Had a pretty decent start to his freshman year and then hit the portal. Guys, he is a very, very good edge rusher. When he was evaluated earlier in his high school years, guys, he was a 4-star backer for a reason. Top 20 linebacker in the nation. He was a day 2 or 3. He was a round 2 or 3 pick. I think he can fit in this Corey Batoon defense. You put him all over the field. You can put him on the edge. You can drop him back into coverage. He can be a good rover type of backer. I think he has the capability of being that type of athlete. I really do. Because he's that damn good of a player. He knows how to read ball key on a quarterback. He knows how to read an offense. He knows how to read a play. I think his fundamentals need a bit of tweaking, but apart from that, he is a extremely, extremely talented edge player that could make a significant defense or significant difference for Missouri. Hard to replace a guy like Damon Wilson. Malik Bryant's pretty damn close. He's learned from great edge rushers that were in front of him as well. Caden Lee, the transfer from Ole Miss to Missouri, he committed earlier yesterday, along with his teammate Chris Graves Jr. Austin Simmons is going to have some dudes to throw the football to. Caden Lee, I was a bit surprised that he decided to enter the portal. I was. I didn't think his production dropped from last year. And I still would have thought that he would still get a lot of playing time. It's not like he wasn't starting. But we've seen glimpses of where this cat can do some really special things. 9 catches, $132 against LSU. 5 catches, $127 against Arkansas. By the way, that Arkansas game, he averaged over 25 yards a catch. Thought this year, I don't want to say his production dropped, but a little bit, not as many carries, and wasn't really considered a deep ball threat. Part of that really wasn't his fault. I know he had been dealing with a bit of a stinger, but guys, when you have guys like DeJon Stribling that's moving from tight end to wide receiver, and he's having the season that he had, and Trey Wallace, who pops up out of nowhere, and has a magnificent senior year. A guy that I really think could end up putting himself in position to be a top 100 player in the NFL draft. It excites me to see what Austin Simmons is going to have as his weapons. He's getting a lot of familiar faces. And I think that we may be getting more from Ole Miss. I'm interested to see what Caleb Odom decides to do, whether he decides to stay or whether he decides to enter the portal. It would not surprise me if he decides to enter it. Now, he's obviously, well, never mind. He's already decided to stay home. Whatever. I'm telling you, though, I guarantee you that was very tempting when Austin Simmons hit the portal. Extremely tempting. I was surprised Marquise Johnson decided to enter the portal and go to Mississippi State. Money talks, though, at the end of the day. Surprised he didn't get a whole lot of touches after that first game. Guys, I thought Marquise Johnson would have had a bigger year after that first game against Central Arkansas, where he pops off for 5 catches for $132, 34. And then, that was a cat that had been dealing with injury. He could not see the field after that injury, which hindered him. It sucked not being able to see that kid on the field. I thought that he was going to be a difference maker at receiver. He's a real X factor, and I think that he can put himself into a position where he's going to be an elite SEC receiver when he's healthy. Slot guy that has a lot of speed. Robert Woodyard was another guy that got some playing time alongside Debo Atkins. Had 67 tackles this past year, along with Bryce Diaz and Coleman Granberry. I want to say he was second on the team in tackles, or at least top 5. Regardless, you're getting a former SEC starting linebacker that you can plug in. And look, man, I think it'd be pretty good for a team like Missouri to get backers like that. You found your 2 starting backers in Robbie Woodyard to go along with, damn it, where did he go? The Miami linebacker. You know what I mean. I think Missouri is going to, I would expect the same expectations for next year for Missouri. Scheduling wise, it's interesting. Non-conference schedule, I think, you should start 3-0. Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Troy, and then at Kansas. I'm not seeing you losing to either of those teams. You go to Mississippi State, that could be a toss-up. Florida, all right, so here's your home games right now. You have Florida at home, A&M at home, Texas at home, Kentucky, and Oklahoma at home. These are your road games. They're rough. I'm not even going to lie to you. At Georgia, at Arkansas, at Ole Miss, at Mississippi State. 8-4 could potentially be the median I see. But who knows what happens when you go play Ole Miss next year. Let's see what that defense looks like. Let's see what Deuce Knight can do in his first year. I'm not saying Deuce Knight is going to be perfect for Ole Miss in his first year as a full-time starter. I will say, though, that anything can happen. Here's my early projection for Missouri. You win your first 3 games, you go on the road to Mississippi State. I see you dropping that football game. I think this is one of those games where Mississippi State may get caught off guard. I don't know what the health of Kamario Taylor is going to look like, though. I do want to say that he has an opportunity to break college football. He does. And it's a pretty bad injury. It's an ankle injury. He's expected to make a quick and full recovery in time for spring practices. How will that injury hinder him? I think he'll be fine recovering from it. But who knows coming back from an ankle injury? Those are hard to recover from. But I think you go on the road, you get dropped by that one. Florida at home, I think you take care of business there. I think that your running game will be too strong. By the way, Zyshawn Edwards, let's say that Ahmad Hardy gets hurt. Zyshawn Edwards comes in. I think that he makes a magnificent impact as a backup. And when he takes over as the full-time starter in 2027, don't be surprised if he's the best back in the SEC. Zyshawn Edwards, I've seen him at Houston Christian. He is the real deal. Texas A&M at home, I just don't see you getting past them. I think Marcel Reed is going to get into his element at that point. Give me A&M on the road taking care of business. At Ole Miss, again, I don't know whenever you play a guy like Deuce Knight. Does Ole Miss have weapons coming back? Yes, they do. Do I think that they've done pretty well in the portal as a whole? Sure. You've had your moments, and you've done really well. You got Darrell Gill, who's a deep ball threat. You got Deuce Knight. You got Jay Crawford, who's a starting cornerback. You got edge rushers like Jordan Raynaud and Blake Purchase. You have dudes. How will that translate to on the field? Not real sure. But I think as a whole, I still think Ole Miss is much better than Missouri. I think Missouri still is young, and I think from what they've lost the last 2 years, it's going to bite them. I think they take an L right there. At Arkansas, you should handle business against Ryan Silverfield and company. We'll see what happens with them. So you're 5-3 going in the last 4 games of the season. Texas at home, you're taking an L. Georgia on the road, you're taking an L. Kentucky at home, you should win that football game. Oklahoma, that returns John Mateer. If your offense gets into a rhythm, because Oklahoma is going to lose dudes. They are. Now, what does Isaiah Satanga look like? Is he back or is he going up to the NFL draft? He's staying at Oklahoma. So this is a massive return for a team like Oklahoma. The same thing goes for Deion Burks. He's back. Those two guys are difference makers. If they are on, they are on. If they're not, then a team is going to catch them lacking. I think Missouri is going to find a way on senior night to pull off an upset. I think that this their one upset of the year. Give me Missouri to finish 7-5 on the year. But I still think, though, that they are going to be one of those teams that may pull an upset here and there. Let's say Texas comes to Farouk Field, and let's say that they're able to have their way with Cam Coleman. Let's say that they're able to limit Hollywood Smothers, and let's say that they make Arch Manning roll outside the pocket. Put pressure on him and make him roll. He's not good on the run when he throws. Put pressure on him, and I think you have an opportunity at 7-5. I think your ceiling is 9-3. I think your floor is either 5-7 or 6-6. But I don't expect for a 5-7 or 6-6 season to happen. Let's see what happens with Kansas. Let's see what happens when they go to Arkansas. But I think other than that, I think you're good. Okay, let me take a break real fast, guys, and I will be back in just a minute. You're tuned in to the Southern Sports Scene. Let's talk about Arizona, because I really like what Arizona is bringing back in 2026. Guys, if there is any team that I think can make a run like what Indiana did this past year, it is Arizona. Why do I say that about Arizona? And why am I so high on a team like them? Guys, until you really understand what they bring back, guys, they have a legit opportunity to do something truly incredible. And is that they have a top 50 recruiting class right now. Is it great? No. Does it look appealing? Has its ups and downs. Guys, they can be really good this next year. A healthy Cole Rusk can be one of the best tight ends in the Big 12. And I think that they're going to do that. You talk about Dalen Austin, who didn't see the field much this past year for Oregon. Guys, he is a really, really dominant shutdown corner. Matai Toiagai couldn't get some playing time at Arizona. You did not lose a whole lot of dudes to the portal this past year, which was a massive thing for you. You were able to keep majority of your roster. And for Brett Brennan and company, guys, last year was a make or break type of year for Brett Brennan. You had to hit because your first year there, people were doubting you. Guess what? You would have went into 2026 if you made the same, if you had the same issues from last year that hindered you in 2025. Brett Brennan would have been on the hot seat in a hurry in 2 years at Arizona. Now they have them in an opportunity where we're legitimate. I could be legitimate, be here, back here in, oh God, I can't talk it. We could be back here in 2 years, or in what? It's January 24th. In 11 months or so. And we could be looking at Arizona as a college football playoff contender. They have the schedule. They have a lot that they're bringing back. And even though the receiving core is going to take a blow, Chris Hudson, I know that he's not what Tedorosha McMillan was. I know losing a guy like Ismail Mahdi is going to hurt. But guys, to be quite honest with you, your recruiting class looks really good. Your portal class looks a lot better than expected. Malcolm Hartzog, in my opinion, could be one of the better safety, could be one of the better corners in the Big 12. Guys, he is going to be a lockdown corner in the Big 12. We've seen flashes of greatness from him. Think he's going to be really special when it is all said and done. When you look at this schedule, first of all, is it favorable for Arizona? You bet your ass it is. You bet you it is. Northern Arizona, BYU, Northern Illinois, at Washington State is favorable for you. Here's your tough games. On the road against BYU. At home against Cincinnati. On the road against West Virginia. Yes, I'm considering that a tough road game because you never know what's going to happen in year 2 of the Rich Rod era. At Texas Tech. At home against Utah. And then at home against Arizona State. Noah Fifida is the best quarterback returning in the Big 12. He had a tremendous improvement from last year. They were really bad. He struggled with turnovers last year, and he turned it around this past year. He's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in 2027 when it is all said and done. I really believe that with my heart that is going to be the case. 64% completion percentage this past year, 3,200 passing yards, 29 touchdowns. He's running the football a bit more. He had 114 rushes this year. He didn't have 100 combined carries the last 2 years. that goes up. You have, from what I'm looking at right now, projected at least 3 top 25 teams going into 2026. Arizona has an opportunity to be what Indiana was. If they can get at least to 10-2, they could be playing for a college football playoff. And in my opinion, Noah Fafita has improved so much. I would expect him to be one of the most improved quarterbacks in college football. Not only that, maybe a Heisman Trophy contender. I may be talking out of my butt, but I mean, hey, what does Arizona bring back? Well, you're bringing back one of the better play callers from last year in Seth Doge. You brought back a defense that is much better, significantly better. Danny Gonzalez is a massive hire for you at Arizona. Seth Doge helped improve your offense greatly. Spread it out. Let your quarterback rip the football down the field. You were a lot more balanced than you were this past year. You weren't trigger happy like what Dino Babers was with his quarterback. And it helped you quite a bit. Because when I look at what you did in 2024, this is where Arizona was in total offense in 2024. They were 15th in total offense, 13th in total defense. Look how much a difference 1 year makes. You go from 15th in total offense to 3rd in total offense. In scoring offense, by the way. Defensively, you went from 13th to 4th in scoring defense. You were 2nd in total defense. You were 6th in total offense in yards per game. Arizona's still struggling to run the football, but I wasn't worried about that compared to what they were last year. Arizona, one of the best pass defenses in college football this past year. And guys, they're going to bring a lot of dudes back. I think Arizona could be a way too early pick from the Big 12 to be a 10-win team and potentially contend for a college football playoff spot. How about them? How about them apples? One of the most improved teams from last year in all of college football was Arizona. It's going to suck losing guys like, Ishmael Mahdi, who I thought made a big difference for you defensively. It's going to be sucky losing a guy like Dalton Johnson, who was a leader for you defensively. It's going to suck losing a guy like Marquise Groves Killebrew, who had a massive season this past year. That's now at Cal. Who's going to get developed by Tosh Lupoy. So where do you go from here? Guys, your front seven should be significantly better. They did not get much pressure compared to, or your passing defense is going to take a hit. But if you're still a top 3 overall pass defense in the Big 12, if your offense can get more balance when it comes to run/pass. If you can find a consistency factor there, you will be just fine. You will. And who's to say that a team like Arizona with, I wouldn't necessarily say the lack of depth at receiver, but with the overall just from a leadership perspective, it isn't there. That's all I'll say. But from that perspective, the fact that you're able to, still maintain what you were able to get last year from them, it's going to be hard to replicate that in 2026, but I still think you're able to develop well and you're able to build upon what was an impressive improvement from last year. Ended off on a high, on a pretty low note, knowing that you lost to BYU. We'll see how that impacts Arizona at the end of the day. Well, they didn't lose to BYU. They lost to SMU. I thought that you were going to be able to get off to a much better start than you did against SMU. You can't get yourselves into an early hole. It's what hurt Arizona in a lot of their games. And it's not on anybody else, but yourself. Like I've said over and over and over again. So, look, the fact that you went to double overtime with BYU, you were there, and you had an opportunity to win at the end of the game, that tells you a lot of where I think that team is going to head in the future. The fact that you went to Houston, who had one of the more improved offenses in college football, is going to tell me a lot. So we'll see what happens from there. Number 23 is Houston. Speaking of the Cougars. If you were to tell me again this past year for a Houston team that was going to improve in a way and go from a 4-win season in 2024, fire their offensive coordinator, have to replace a DC in Shell Wood that was incredible, replace him with Austin Armstrong, which, be honest with you, I didn't really like him as much as I thought I would have, but still put up very impressive numbers defensively. I still think that there's a liability there. I still don't think Austin Armstrong is your guy. I'm just being real with you. But still, you're able to put together games like you had against Arizona State. Offensively, you look a lot better. But now you're going to go into 2026, and who did you lose? Well, you're going to lose you lost Keontae Scott, who's now at Miami. Well, the wrong Keontae Scott, but anyways. You're going to lose Connor Wigman. That's obvious. I think. You should lose Connor Wigman. Hold on. I want to say Wigman is back, but I don't want to jinx it just yet. I think he's back. Amari Thomas is going to be one of the better receivers in the Big 12. He will obviously be back this upcoming season. And then arguably one of the biggest ones from the defensive side of the ball, Khalil Lafu, who has a bright future ahead of him. Had somewhat of a down year this past year, but I thought he had a pretty nice game against LSU. It's a massive one for him. I know you're going to lose one of the better tight ends in college football in Tanner Kozoil, who's now at the end of his eligibility. He's entering the NFL draft. Slade Nagel, what a hell of a job that he did in his second term, his second time as an FBS offensive coordinator. And you look at what he was able to do. Guys, it's hard to replicate something like that. Guys, Slade Nagel had helped resurge that offense to a new height. I thought that you saw improvement in every major category, from passing offense to how you were up front and how you were able to develop your quarterback into a whole new level. Guys, people wrote off Connor Wigman after he left Texas A&M. But guys, here's where I'm concerned the most about Houston is that you're losing a key piece at tight end. You're going to lose some dudes in the back seven. How do you replace those? I think you did well in the portal. Again, I mentioned the portal a lot, guys. But you got to understand about how important it has been. You know, you get Jaden Yates from Ole Miss, who's now a Houston Cougar. Mekhi Hughes is an interesting get for me. It wasn't that long ago. This was a 1,500-yard back that was one of the best running backs in the portal. Signs with Oregon, doesn't get any playing time, and he reunites with Willie Fritz at Houston. My God, guys, Mekhi Hughes is still a very good back. He's still one of the best running backs out there in college football. He has the potential to be a feature back for any Division I program, and I think he's going to do that at Houston. I really like Mekhi Hughes, downhill runner, north and south guy, doesn't go down after initial contact, and a guy that enjoys absorbing contact, and he's just going to bounce right off of you, and he's going to make you pay. Can be shifty when he needs to be. But, guys, he's a running back that every old school guy dreams of. Hard-nosed type of runner that you love to have. Mekhi Hughes is going to make a difference for Houston. I would not be surprised. The Big 12 is so deep this next year. When we talk about Arizona, when we talk about Texas Tech and the money that they have now, when we talk about Houston, we weren't considering that at the beginning of last year. Now we got to look at the Big 12 in a whole new light, knowing that the Big 12 can play at a high level. Utah. When I talk about a team like Utah, what can they do? Guys, I'll be damned. Cincinnati and Scott Satterfield has been getting some dudes in the portal. I know that you lost Brennan Sorsby, but you know what? Look at what they got. Go take a look at what their transfer portal looks like. You get J.C. French from Georgia Southern, who I am a fan of. I liked watching him at Georgia Southern. Giovanni Gibson, who had a lot of potential coming from UAPB, transfers to Cincinnati. He can be a feature receiver. I think he's a 600 or 700 yard receiver. No pun intended. Patrick Bauer, who could be a feature linebacker in the middle. The one guy that I think can make a big impact is MJ Cannon. Him and Jasper Beeler in the secondary are going to be guys that you're going to have to look out for. Both of the Cincinnati has had their struggles on defense, but you get those two guys in there, I think they can make pretty impressive marks as soon as they leave. I really do. And both of those guys, not very highly recruited coming out of high school, but look at what they've been able to do. Zylan Perry, transfer from UL, is now a Cincinnati Bearcat. I've been very impressed with Zylan Perry. I got to watch him in the 68 Ventures Bowl, got him some very, very good carries. Hard runner, man. Really hard runner. And he'll hit the hole. He's going to make you pay. He's quick, too. Was one of the team leaders in rushing yards this past year. And, dude, I'm really impressed with him. Brother, I am really impressed with what he has been able to do. They also have a Yale transfer quarterback that actually follows me on Twitter, which, by the way, shout out to him. I'm trying to find the kid's name because, look, I don't even mean to do it to the kid because I really like this dude. Daggum, I had it at one point, but I just do not remember. But I'm telling you, I remember talking about this kid and then watching his tape from Yale. And dude, he was a dog. I mean, an absolute dog. Let's see. Liam O'Brien from Penn. That's what it was. Guys, Liam O'Brien is a really good quarterback. Guys, he's a very high percentage completion thrower. And I think he's going to be a really special player when he gets to Cincinnati. Him and J.C. French are going to be competing for the starting job. I would not be surprised if they end up splitting some reps in the spring with the ones. I'm excited to watch Cincinnati spring practice to see what happens from them. Number 22, Virginia Tech. I think they've been able to hit the portal at a high rate, man. And look, part of that is because of the intensity and the drive that is behind that team. James Franklin obviously wants a little bit, I wouldn't necessarily say revenge, but I will say that they want a little bit of swagger to him to let him know, hey, man, we're not done with what we have. We're not done with what we've been able to do. They put together a top 20 transfer portal, which is impressive. That's the bottom line. They've done a really, really good job of being a top 20 transfer portal team and building a roster. Penn State, right above them, we'll talk about them and how they've been able to recover in the portal. But you've been able to get dudes. You got Ethan Grunkmeyer to Virginia Tech. You got Luke Reynolds. So you have some quality dudes. You got a lot of Penn State dudes that are at VT, more than I thought. And people were screaming from the rafters that things weren't going to be well for James Franklin and co. because you just simply could not get depth or could not be able to recruit at a high level. Well, they've done really well. Bill Davis, who's a quality back from UL. Marlon Jackson, who is going to be really special from Louisiana Tech. Cam Chadwick, who's a UConn transfer. I think he has a really strong possibility of being a starting cornerback when it's all said and done. Here's the one guy that I think is going to be very special. It's Quayshawn Brown. Duke transfer. How much of an influence could he be to his partner in crime in Cooper Barkay? How much in his ear is he to say, hey, man, come on. Come with me to VT. Let's do something special. Obviously, he may follow Darian Mensah to Miami, wherever they may go. Guys, Quayshawn Brown, though, dare I say it, could be in his ear and say, let's build something special together with Coach Franklin. Let's do it. I would not be surprised if they are able to do so. In the recruiting, too, you build a top 25 recruiting class. You got a top 10 linebacker. You got a top 10 athlete in the state of Pennsylvania. You don't have a lot of highly ranked guys. You got the number one kicker in the country, though. But you have dudes. That should be all that matters to you right now, is you're able to get guys from the portal. You're able to develop at a high rate. And that, look, James Franklin has a record of doing that. And I think he'll continue that record at Virginia Tech. Taking over for a team like that with all that has just been really bad from them from a football perspective, dating all the way back to the beginning of the decade, really dating back to the last 10 to 15 years. They've just consistently fallen short of where they really should be as a program. And let me just tell you, since the end of the Frank Beamer era, well, really since the last 5 years of the Frank Beamer era, after their last appearance in the New Year's Six Bowl, which was 2011, this has been their record. They have one 10-win season since 2012. They're 7-6, 8-5, 7-6, 7-6, 10-4, 9-4, 6-7, 8-5, 5-6, 6-7, 3-8, 7-6, 6-7. And I think, and that's not even including what they went last year, which was 3-9. So hold on, my girlfriend is texting me. This is for you, Afton. You're going to be in the snap. All right. Let me do pull out that old calculator. We're going to do some math. You've won 92 games since 2012. You're 92-86 since 2012. That ain't what Virginia Tech football was about in the Frank Beamer era. You're about to be on your third head coach in the last 10 years. At what point do things change for Virginia Tech? Hopefully it's this year. And is the schedule going to favor VT in year one? I have no idea. I'll be honest. I don't know. You start off your first two games, you play VMI, you played Old Dominion. Old Dominion has been Virginia Tech's Achilles heel for the last, God, what? 5 years. They've lost to Old Dominion. If they don't beat Old Dominion this year, it's already off to a bad start. You go to Maryland, Mike Loxley's in a rough situation. You got to take care of business. Guys, 7-5 is not out of the ordinary for Virginia Tech. You don't play a lot of teams that are really that great. Your first one, look, here's who you play. You play VMI, you play Old Dominion, you play at Maryland, you play Virginia, who's going to lose a good bit. We'll see what they do with Bo Beulah, though. So that could be a toss-up. Boston College, at Cal. I don't know what's going to happen with them. Pitt is going to lose a decent bit at Stanford. 6 or 7 wins is not out of the ordinary. It's not. So it's a very realistic scenario for Virginia Tech to be in, to be a 7-win team when it's all said and done. This is a hard schedule. Make no mistake about that. You go to Berkeley to play Jaron Kiawe, Sagapulete for the 7. Once again, guys, Kiawe is going to be a very special player. Almost 3,500 yards this past year. He's going to sling the rock around. At Clemson, what is Clemson going to be like this year? How locked in could they be with Dabo? Guys, there's no telling at that point. At Miami, at SMU, Georgia Tech at home, it's not impossible for them to be an 8 or 9 win team. 6 or 7 wins is the minimum. I would potentially have them stealing a few games. I think you beat Georgia Tech. I think you beat Pitt, and I think you beat Stanford. I think you go on the road and beat BC and Cal. Virginia's a toss-up. The first 3 games are pretty much a guaranteed win, in my opinion. You have at least an 8-win season in front of you if you can execute. And then finally, Penn State to end off the night. I thought that they came out guns a-blazing. Guns a-blazing. They have their guy. Matt Campbell came in and told his dudes from Iowa State, let's go to work. They brought in Ben Brahmer and Rocco Beck, the best quarterback tight end combo in the nation. They brought in Chase Sowell, who's going to be a stud at receiver. They brought in Caleb Bacon, who is a dude at linebacker, who could be a Senior Bowl watch list guy, in my opinion, this next year. Chase Sowell's a 500-yard receiver this past year. Guys, I would expect him to break out in 2025. Marcus Neal, Brett Ice-Keldon, who had a pretty magnificent year this past year. 30-catch guy, another 500-yard guy. This is a very balanced offense that Iowa State had this past year. And I know you're going to lose some dudes. James Peoples to Penn State is interesting, in my opinion. Peoples got some carries this past year, got some playing time a good bit. Explosive runner. He can take one to the house when he gets open space, and he could potentially do that for Penn State this year. He's not going to be Nick Singleton or Katron Allen. You can't replace those two types of guys. But you bring him in. You brought in Carson Hansen. Guys, Matt Campbell is a player's coach. And you know how I know? Go look at his transfer portal class. Carson Hansen was one of the more underrated backs in the Big 12 this past year, near 1,000-yard receiver. Guys, they brought in dudes. And they brought in a lot of guys that they're going to use down the stretch of games. They are going to be very, very much improved. I think Penn State is on the rise with Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell's a damn good coach, dude. He's been in situations where he's had to kind of bring back a team from abroad. Guys, Iowa State was bad. They were a really bad program for a very long time. In between Matt Campbell and the last time that they had a decent year with Dan McCarney as their head coach. And look, Dan McCarney, you could consider him a legend in Iowa State. Won a Big 12 North title, even though he never really got to a bowl game of sorts. Dan McCarney's an Iowa State legend. But how good can they be? How good can Iowa State be, realistically? That was a team that between what? They look, that was an Iowa State team that was bad. They were really bad. They hadn't won their best year. They hadn't had a 10-win season in their history. In the history of Iowa State, they had never had a 10-win year until this past season, or till 2 years ago, really, when they went 11-3. First 10 wins. I think this was their first 10-win season. I could be wrong, though. But I'm pretty sure that this was their very first 10-win year. Sucks, man. Sucks that they didn't get to play in the bowl game this past year because of a lack of healthy players. I think it was just because it was a similar situation to what happened with Charlie Huff. When you have dudes and you have a mass exodus like you did, it's hard to play in a bowl game like that. But I think Penn State is going to be a very good team this next year. Matt Campbell has Penn State going in the right direction with all that they have, with what he was able to do for getting dudes to buy in. And you see it. They're following him. They're following him to Happy Valley. They get Marshall at Temple, Buffalo at Maryland. You're 4-0 there. At Northwestern, guys, you're getting revenge there. You got to circle that. 5-0. Minnesota, Purdue, Rutgers, you take care of business there. Wisconsin at Wisconsin. This is an 8-win team. You have got to take care of business in big games. That is something that Penn State has struggled with the last several years with them. You have got to be consistent. So, which the good part, the good and bad part about this is that Ohio State is not on their season. It's not on their schedule. Guys, you play USC at home, you go to Washington, and you go to Michigan. You're going to be I think you have a legit chance of being in the college football playoff, but you have to finish games. Matt Campbell and company can finish. Let's see if they can do that in 2025. All right, that's it for the first half of our way too early top 25. We'll go through Iowa, Tennessee, USC, Alabama, and Washington in next week. Guys, thank you so much for hopping on in to the Southern sports scene yet again. Make sure you do us a favor. Hit the like, share, and subscribe button down below. Turn on the bell notification so that you are notified every time we go live. And y'all make sure y'all stay blessed and y'all don't ever stress. So y'all have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you guys next week. By the way, live from the Senior Bowl next week. Let's go. Hey, stay warm, by the way, guys. Y'all have a good